Bienvenidos, señoras y señores, to another episode of the Bleed Lows podcast. This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast has been brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, football, college football, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting, and your favorite casino and card games are available to play right from your phone. So head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And joining us on the Carne Asada is our old friend. He is not only the Los Angeles Dodgers all-time home run leader, but he is also the El Rey of show hair in Major League Baseball. He's still got it. So it's Eric Karros, everybody. Eric, ¿cómo estás, amigo?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien. I love it when you guys show off your Spanish.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hey, and also I got to mention too, not only have I been on, but you had my son on earlier this year as well.
I'm glad you brought it up because he killed it, Eric. Whatever media training you're doing with Jared,
there you go.
You're doing it. He was great. I love the surfing, and he's not afraid of sharks. So
I
love that. I love that. You know what, Eric? We wanted to have you on because you are the smartest man in baseball. I want to remind everybody it was around this time a year ago that Eric said the 2023 Dodgers were going to be a very different team, different looking team. Well, 2023 came, the Dodgers looked different, but we got a lot, maybe similar results, Eric. Eric, what was the biggest surprise for you of this 2023 team?
So the biggest surprise, interesting you asked that. So I was, we were doing our telecast the last 3 days in San Francisco. And on each day, one of the topics, we had a surprise player, an impactful play, and then MVP. So I picked for my surprise, Ryan Brazier. That is my surprise. And the reason I picked him, Dodger bullpen was just getting crushed as far as not only, on the field, but media, just things weren't going well, right? Coming off a series against the Giants, I think they had 15 runs. Ryan Brazier, nobody knows who Ryan Brazier is, right? We pick him up from Boston. We send him to Oklahoma City. He's pitching there, bring him up. Since his first appearance with the Dodgers, best bullpen in baseball. Best bullpen. Now, if you had Ryan Brazier before the season, then let's go look for lottery tickets.
Right? Vegas, baby.
Absolutely. Hey, Eric, I don't want to leave the San Francisco series because you brought something up, and there was a lot of you former players that were bringing this up. Right. The number of times that the Dodgers were getting hit.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying you were calling for a retaliation, but it seemed like you guys were all saying, what the heck are the Dodgers waiting for? Why isn't anybody answering back?
So I don't know that we were calling for it, right? I heard Jay Hare, he had mentioned it. Oral had talked about it. I think more than anything, we were just saying that at different time, things would have been handled differently. And it doesn't mean it's right, wrong, or whatever. And I don't think that the Giants, and I made the comment on air, they weren't trying to hit Dodger hitter. They weren't trying to do that. But at some point, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to do it or not. And the thing that the difference in this situation is we are a week away from postseason. Giants are done. And Will Smith takes one off the elbow and he's not able to catch. That's a big problem.
Yes.
Right. And if Miguel Rojas is unable to play because he got hit in the hand, that's a big problem. And so I get, I hear the comment, oh, it's old school and, oh, you're being, whatever. You don't hit a guy now. Most of the people that say that, in fact, I would say, I'm not sure any one of them has ever stood in a box. Mm-hmm. And that's not saying, oh, well, then they don't know anything. That's not it. But there is something to be said about protecting your players. And you go back to the Don Drysdale days. You hit one of mine, I'm hitting two of yours. Yeah. And it's, again, when you're on the field, you understand it.
Right.
Absolutely. Alicia, go ahead.
He's being very gracious, Eric Karros, because I loved how you clarified. I'm not saying they had to hit him, but you brought up a great point, Eric. The Giants, you believe, were not trying to hit Dodger players. However, shouldn't they have tried harder to knock off
So I think so it's interesting because both times that the Giant hitters the Giant pitchers hit our hitters, and they were inside pitches, obviously, the next couple of hitters, they're staying away the entire time. And they know that, like I said, they're not trying to hit, but there is something to be said also. If you're trying to work on throwing inside, do it on your own time, right? Exactly. Don't do it in a game where somebody can get hurt. And like I said, if this is the middle of the season, completely different animal. Now look I'll go back. I'll tell Pedro Martinez, Hall of Fame pitcher. So he had a reputation of throwing at guys. So what did other teams finally start doing? They started throwing at Larry Walker, who was their star player on the Montreal Expos back then. You know what Larry did? Larry then went to Pedro and is like, look, we're done with this throwing at guys because I'm the one wearing it. And, right. And that's how that stuff, it used to be handled. And, whether right or wrong, that's the way it was done.
Right. And it was effective, right? So I hear you. I like the wisdom of Eric Karros. I want to go back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago. You guys all on Spectrum, you talked about your surprise player, your MVP. There were 3 categories. It was surprise.
Yep. Play. Then there was like most impactful play, and then it was MVP.
MVP. And so that's what I meant to say. MVP.
My MVP. So for me, it was Freddie Freeman, and the reason it was Freddie was the obviously the numbers, and he was a top 5 or 10 in almost every offensive category, whether you're talking about batting average to doubles to RBIs to home, like everything. Stolen bases. I mean, I don't know if he was top 10, but he had to be close. Defense, everything. And then, so that, and same with Mookie. Mookie was right there too. For me, though, the separator with Freddie is he does it every single day, every single pitch. And that, having played and knowing there were times where I forgot how many outs there were, or I didn't remember the count, or it was, you just look, you're a human being. You're not going to be locked in 24/7 for 100. I was trying to think of a time where Freddie didn't know how many outs there were, or, just kind of packed it in, or made a mistake on the base paths, or I couldn't think of one. I couldn't find one. And that day in and day out, that is, I mean, that may be tougher to do than some of the numbers he put up.
Right. So I'm not going to speak for my co-host, but I would vote the same for MVP, Freddie Freeman, right? And along that line, what is the deal? Why is he not being allowed in the same conversation as Acuna Jr.? I mean, the stolen bases thing, you brought that up.
Right.
It's just a different beast this year. Our producer, Babyface, he talks about this all the time. The base is bigger. The pitching is different. The pitch clock, huge factor. The pitchers 100%. Are only allowed to throw twice at a player. Like this all affects. So there are going to be more stolen bases. So why is it so heavily? I mean, I'm being biased, but why is Freddie Freeman not even in that same? So, they mention him as an afterthought.
Right. No, you're talking about him as, maybe a 3rd or 4th. It's Acuna and Betts, right? And you are 100% right where you're talking about it is. I don't want to say it's easier to steal a base now. It's not even close. It's night and day as opposed to, guys doing it in years past. That being said, what Ronald Acuna has done is something that's never been done in the history of the game. Regardless of what the rules are now, the 40-70 has never been done. You also, there was something else too that I wasn't aware of until this weekend, but he has never had a month where he had an OPS, which is the on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and that's kind of what's used to measure the, an offensive player. He hasn't had an OPS under 900 this year at any given month. 900 is elite. And, you know, Freddie Freeman had a 780 or 790 one month. And the consistency that Acuna has had, like, I get it. I get it. I'd love to see Freddie win it. I'd love to see Mookie win it. But what Acuna did this year is, I mean, the only one that's going to do it better than that is maybe Acuna next year.
Okay, fine.
Eric, look, the playoffs.
Yep.
The Dodgers have won the division 10 out of the last 11 years. You know, somehow the success that they have in the regular season is always dismissed because it's all about the postseason. It's what you do in the postseason. Going into this, you know, we already have Robert saying they're going to have to get creative when it comes to the pitching staff.
Right.
You can't, I mean, I guess the Braves might be the only team in the postseason that you could literally say might be able to slug their way to a championship. But in most cases, the offense is going to get checked in the playoffs. So that means there's going to be more pressure on the pitching. Right. Am I wrong in saying that the Dodgers postseason success is going to depend on this starting rotation and what they end up coming up with?
Well, I guess what I would say is you're right in that I think it depends on the pitching. I don't know that I would say starting rotation because I don't know, outside of Kershaw and probably Bobby Miller, I don't know what that rotation looks like. And I don't know, is it going to be opener and then go to one of the younger players? So I would say the pitching, obviously. And as is the case, but you hit it right on the head. And I said the same thing a couple weeks ago. This might be the only time where I feel a team could actually, as you put it, slug its way to a world championship with Atlanta. Otherwise, I would say pitching, you know, that is the story. The Dodgers, though, what I will say about this is 1 through 13 or 1 through 14, I'll take them over any staff in baseball. Now, I might not take their top 3 over somebody else's top 3, but 1 through 13 or 14, Dodgers all day long. And, you know, he's saying getting creative. I don't know if I'd say it's as much as it's going to be creative or it's just non-conventional, because creative to me makes it feel like, oh, we've got to come up with this elaborate, this crazy out of the box. And for me, it's pretty simple. Like, I know who my guys are that are going to eat innings. I just have to figure out, like, who is going to be my starter, who's going to take down the first 3 hitters. Non-conventional for me is a better word.
There you go. This is why you're the smartest man in baseball. Eric, I mean, you've been there before. You're a rookie. Mm-hmm. Is there an advantage to guys like Pepio, to Miller, to Sheehan, the fact that they haven't been there before so they don't know what to expect? Or is it inevitable that we're going to see these rookies get caught up in a moment?
So here's the thing. What I will say is these guys have been, this isn't, hey, we got called up in September and now we're going to be thrown into the fire. Now, yes, the postseason, a completely different animal. Just because every pitch is going to be more intense. You know, 60 pitches in the postseason versus 60 pitches in the regular season are completely different. The intensity, the amount of stress, the endurance level, all those sorts of things are much more, you know, highlighted come the postseason. That being said, Bobby Miller, for me, has made all kinds of strides in being able to temper his emotions. Earlier in the year, you looked at a Giants game and an Astros game, and it was, I mean, a couple things didn't go his way, and it was just snowball, and it didn't turn out well either time. That's not the same guy we have now. He's learned to, you know, step back, take a breath. Emmett Sheehan, the same way. I think that he's become better. Pepio as well. Michael Grove coming in for an inning or two. We're not going to know until we know, right? They're not. You can mimic everything, but until you're standing out there and, you know, going through the emotions, we don't know. But like I said, I'm taking this Dodger pitching staff over any staff in baseball.
Before I throw over to Alicia, Eric, I just have to ask you, have people given up on the eye test? And what I mean by the eye test is this idea with the opener. And then it's like you bring in an opener and then Pepio comes in and kills it for like 6 or 7 innings. Right. And it's like, why can't we just let Pepio start the game? Because as we saw in Colorado, all it took was those runs in the first inning that Pepio wasn't pitching in, and it cost you the game. Look, I understand. I think analytics has always been a part of Major League Baseball. You always look at numbers. Right. But I just feel the eye test now is a thing that's of the past, where if you see a guy is clearly killing it, leave him in.
So I agree. I guess this is the reason for the opener is so you can get a guy to go longer in the game, meaning you don't want Pepio to face 1, 2, and 3 times. So you could theoretically have him face 1, 2, and 3, 2 times in 4 innings. Maybe the third time's coming around in the 5th, 6th probably for sure. So the idea is also I get to pick who I want to face their top 3 hitters. I get to use Gratterall or Phillips or whoever, maybe I'm using Ferguson, whatever. I know I get to pick that matchup. And so later on in the game, I don't know that I'm going to have that opportunity, meaning I may get to face those 1, 2, 3, but there may be guys on, or there may be 2 outs and I get to face, like you have complete control of the situation. So the idea is I knock out those top 3 hitters, and then I bring in whoever, my next pitcher, whether it's Pepio, Sheehan, whoever it is. And now they can theoretically go, they may go 4 innings and only face 1, 2, 3 once. They could go 6 innings and face 1, 2, 3 twice. And the idea is to eat up innings. Would that ever work with a Kershaw? It's never, right? Like you're not going to be able to sell that to him. Are you going to be able to? Bobby Miller now, you're okay with him facing 1, 2, 3 times, but he's a different animal because he's got 5 pitches.
Yeah.
He's got 5 pitches that are all quality pitches. Sheehan and Pepio are more 3-pitch guys. And, the Ferguson thing didn't work well the last couple of starts, but I don't know that he's your opener, right? Mm-hmm. He's just like for this situation, he's going to be our opener. I don't know that that's the path come the postseason.
Point taken. Alicia, let's wrap things up.
Well, I wanted to follow up on that last question, but it's all related to what you just spoke about. Is it not an advantage that a lot of the guys throughout baseball, especially the ones that we're facing in the playoffs, the Dodgers, have not seen the rookies very often? I mean, that's a good thing, isn't it? I'm looking for any advantage.
Yeah, right. No. So if you're seeing a pitcher for the first time, it's definitely advantage pitcher. There's no question about it. The thing is nowadays, though, so you can there's video. You can put on these virtual reality glasses, and I literally can put these things on, and I'm facing Bobby Miller. I'm facing Ryan Pepio. I'm seeing the pitches come at me. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I was down in spring training, and I went in and stood. It was like a big video game, and these guys are actually throwing to me, and so I knew what it was like to face a guy that I had never even seen. I faced Craig Kimbrell. I've never seen Craig Kimbrell except on TV or I've never stood in the box against him. But I'll be darned, after this, I felt like, look, I at least am familiar with him. So that is, while it's still, there's something to be, the preparation now that guys have available to them, whether it's hitting or pitching, the information is crazy. It's crazy.
Dang it. So you and the Prince of Darkness are really, but I'm trying to find any advantage for the Dodgers.
You know what the advantage is? The advantage is talent. They're good. These guys are good. These young guys are good.
So on that note, how are you feeling? Can we get a prediction from you? How do you feel about the Dodgers run through October?
So I like their so for this group, they're as well prepared and as in a good a spot as they could possibly be. Compare it to years past. Is this as talented a team as years past? I don't think so. But what I will say about this group, the expectations for themselves are different than what the expectations for, the country. The last few years, the Dodgers should win. The Dodgers should win. The Dodgers should win. I think they're going into this year as, look at they're maybe the second or third best team in the National League. And I think that is a little bit of a chip, like, oh, really? Okay, we got a little something for you. And I like that. For me, the Dodgers winning the World Series is it's believable, and I completely see a path for it happening.
I'm totally satisfied with that answer, Juan.
That's okay. All right, good.
There you go, Eric. All right, Eric. We want to be respectful of your time. I want to leave you with this one. We've talked about the accomplishments of this team. In a sense, a lot of people think they've overachieved. There's a dude on here that I feel doesn't get enough credit, and that's Dave Roberts. We just had him on the show recently, and there's been a lot of hoopla about how he said this is his favorite team. And he kind of, I feel, doesn't get enough credit because everybody always credits it to Friedman. And there is this belief now, and I've had former major leaguers that tell me this. Heath Bell comes on the show all the time and says, look, all these teams now are working with the front office and the manager. It's a collaboration. So if that's the case, who can you really give credit to? But I just feel the way he handles that clubhouse, I don't think he gets enough credit to get these guys to buy in, because you look down the freeway and it looks like Bob Melvin couldn't get those guys to buy in.
So this is what I'll say about Doc is you're 100% right, does not get the credit that he deserves. And his ability to get all these guys to play, to accept their roles, to buy into whether it's the opener, to buy into matchups, to buy into not playing every day. I mean, you can't argue with the success. And I said this on a telecast, probably it was during the San Diego series when the Padres were up at our place. And, we're talking about all the moves that the Padres have made and what hasn't worked out. And I will say their biggest blunder in the last 10 years, their biggest mistake, and we were fortunate as heck, they fired Bud Black. Their bench coach was Dave Roberts. They did not even give Dave Roberts an interview for the job. They gave it to Andy Green. Dave Roberts then comes here. And remember, it was, Gabe Kapler, there was a pretty good sense that he was going to get the job. It was Gabe Kapler and Dave Roberts. That's who it came down to. And Dave got the job. And you look at the success since, you look at what the Padres have gone through, you can't argue with what Dave has done. You can talk all you want about, well, this, that, whatever. The bottom line is, if he's not managing this ball club, who knows what's gone on in the last, 10 years, 8 years, whatever it's been, he's been here. So, like I said, he does an unreal job. The front office has been great, but man, if you're saying that it could have been better or that he doesn't do a great job, you're not following baseball.
There you have it. We are so lucky to have the smartest man in baseball join us.
Don't keep penning that. You keep labeling me that, and then I'm going to say something stupid or do something dumb, and then it's going to be a meme or something. Right?
No, Eric, I just want to give you your due, because we both know that you called this. When we were at the Justin Turner Foundation.
On this show, right? On this show, I said it, right?
Yeah, you were the one that said, hey, this team is going to look very different.
Right.
And then sure enough, when it did, it was all doom and gloom. Can they even get to 90 wins? Right. And for them to get out here, you called it. So that's why going into the playoffs, you're a soothing voice. You're the voice of reason. We know what to expect now. So we want to thank you. And hey,
anytime.
Much luck to Jared, because he killed it. He killed it down in Rancho and then going up to the next level. Good. So the Karros name. Good.
Thank you.
Good to have it.
Thank you. Thanks, anytime, Eric. Guys. And thanks for joining us this time, Alicia. It was great.
Oh, my God. I will never miss it again. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. You have a good day.
Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers. Hi. And thank you for stopping by the Bleed Lows Podcast YouTube channel. Here you'll find interviews with current and former Dodger players. We also talk with celebrities, reporters, and more. You'll also find content exclusive to YouTube. So subscribe to Bleed Lows Podcast because you never know who'll be stopping by the carne asada.
And a big thank you once again to Eric Karros for joining us on the show. Always dropping the knowledge. Alicia, do you feel better now that Karros is actually, he wouldn't go out, he didn't call his shot. He didn't say who was going to win the World Series, but he did say he could see the Dodgers winning the World Series. So does that make you feel better?
I'll take it. That's my answer, because of course I wanted him to say, no, I really think the Dodgers could do it. But you know, he is the smartest man in the room, according to you in baseball. And I just totally respect him. And I guess I should follow my own advice and focus on the positive. He did say it could happen. It's almost like, so you say there's a chance, right? Like,
are you worried? Are you really worried?
Yes, of course I worried. The Dodgers aren't supposed to be here, and it would be a magical year if the Dodgers win. Of course, I want them to win, but logic and other people like the Prince of Darkness, not you. Okay, maybe you make me worried. So yes, I'm worried.
We must have done like a Freaky Friday or vice versa here, because yes, I am the Prince of Darkness, but I got to tell you guys, I actually feel good going into these playoffs because I think it's wide open. I mean, I don't think a lot of these pitching rotations are healthy. We just got news that the Brewers, the Cerveceros, they just lost Woodruff for the wild card round. And that's one of the top pitchers for the Cerveceros. And if the Serpientes can beat the Cerveceros, we're going to get the Serpientes to come into Dodger Stadium. Look, facing the Cerveceros pitching staff, that is worrisome. Babyface, I mean, are you nervous? Is it getting closer now to that time for you to start pacing and really getting worried?
Well, I'm always worried when it's playoff time, like, because it could end so fast, right? Like,
right
here we are, you know, playoff week, and then it's going to get to Saturday, and then within that next week, it could be over, right? And that's kind of that whole thing of the playoffs. But like, yeah, I'm always worried. You know, I like their chances. And, you know, it's still early, right? They got to see how they're going to come out, how they're going to play that first round. They get by that first round, and then then now we start getting some momentum, and then, you know, we'll see how I feel then. You know, but like I said, I'm confident in this group. If they play up to their capabilities, I believe they can make a good long run in October. But, you know, one day at a time, one series at a time, and we'll see. But, you know, I'm always going to be nervous come October, just because you never know what can happen.
I think Alicia's right in the sense that there are some possible great storylines that could come out of the Dodgers winning the World Series. One of them is, if they win the World Series, it's because these rookie pitchers were nails in the World Series. I mean, that's a great storyline. I want to throw this because she is the Princesa, so we live in an imaginary world. Princesa, how's this for a storyline? The Dodgers end up playing the Rangers and win the World Series in Texas at Globe Life Field. Is that not the best storyline? That they beat the Rangers, but they win in Texas in 2020, and it just vindicates them, saying that 2020 World Series was not a fluke. It was not a Mickey Mouse. Or what to you is the best storyline? What is the best way you can wrap it up in a bow for the Dodgers to win the World Series?
The best way, I was going to ask you, what path do you see it happening? Because I just want it to happen. I don't care how it happens. And I do like that storyline very much. Take us back to Texas. And then we could be like, Toma, to all the haters, all the smack talkers. Oh, it was a bubble. Everyone had the same circumstances and the Dodgers won it. Whatever. That I love that scenario. Let's do it. Let's book our flights now.
Look, I mean, if I had my choice, I think, I mean, I really like Randy Rosarena. I would love to see Randy Rosarena, especially the show that he put in the World Baseball Classic at the beginning of the year. I would love to see him in the World Series. I think the Orioles have just, I can't remember I think it was 83 was the last time that the Orioles were in the World Series. So there's a bunch of teams. I mean, do we want to see the Astros? Would it be better to see the Astros in the World Series and get the revenge, win the World Series against the Astros? I mean, there's so many. I figured this is the only time we have to play this make-believe game, because Saturday's going to be upon us and everybody's going to be stressed. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not even allowed to have these discussions except with you gentlemen, because anytime we bring up Dodgers and playoffs, I get thrown at me, Braves, like as if the Dodgers are not going to make it through the Braves. And so maybe that's why I have not built my fairy tale on how the Dodgers win it all the way to the end, because I have so many. Do you not get that there are a lot of non-believers that they think the Braves just have it wrapped up?
Well, look, the majority of the people are betting money is on the Bravos. The majority of the people are picking the Braves. ESPN released something where the Braves got the majority of the votes. You know what was the second National League team that got the majority of the votes that they would get it to the World Series? Babyface, did you see this? It was the Phillies.
I'm on Phillies, yeah.
The Phillies. Oh. There's a lot of love for the Phillies. There's a lot of experts that are saying if it's not the Bravos, it's going to be the Phillies. Out of all the people that they interviewed at ESPN, there was one guy, and I had never even heard of him. I forget what his name is. There was one dude who picked the Dodgers. So, like Eric Karros said, the Dodgers they're not the favorites. This is the first time in a long time that I don't think anybody expects them to. I mean, there's a lot of people that think if they get the Cerveceros, they could lose in the divisional series to the Cerveceros. So is that a benefit for the Dodgers, babyface, to really be an underdog this time and to have, like Karros said, the chip on their shoulder that, hey, nobody thinks we belong here?
Yeah, and I think I heard Joe Kelly say that. He said going into this, they know they're underdogs, and they're kind of embracing that. They know that they're not the favorite, and yeah, I guess that does, when you go into series now and like, oh, you end up playing the Braves, like everybody's gonna pick the Braves, right? So yeah. I guess the pressure, and even in the playoffs, just going into the playoffs, like a year ago, oh, Dodgers, right? Dodgers. And this year it's kind of the Braves. Yeah. So that pressure isn't there. So like, they just got to go out, like we said, just go out, play their game, and we'll see how it ends up. I mean, a first round matchup with either the Brewers or the Diamondbacks, you would think that's kind of advantage Dodgers, but we'll see. I mean, you do like those matchups, so I mean, I feel comfortable playing either one of those teams.
So do I. And I would like to mention, these same experts, are they the ones who picked the Padres to win the division in the beginning of the season? Because remember, there were a lot of those experts. So come on. There's just never any love for LA, especially the Dodgers, the USC. And I said this at least 2 shows ago. I very much enjoy that the Dodgers are not favored. I like that they're the underdog. I like not having that target on their back. So hopefully it works. It's the winning formula this season.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they got to do, if they got to be the Rocky Balboa this year, I mean, whatever, if it helps them motivated. Look, Michael Jordan used to make up shit all the time to get motivated, to play games. If that's what these guys need, if this is the urgency that Dave Roberts has been hinting about, because he said this way before early in the season, and I was really surprised how he was bringing up urgency back in like August, and I'm like, dude, the playoffs they're still 2 months away. But bringing that urgency, it is obvious to Roberts, and probably there's a couple of other people in that clubhouse. Last year has not been forgotten. That's the chip on their shoulder, I feel. It's not that they're not favored. The chip on their shoulder is they won 111 games last year, and the Show Pods beat them. So I feel there are people in that dugout, in that clubhouse, that feel they have something to prove. And if that's motivation, go ahead. But you still got to play the games, man. You can have all the motivation on the world, but there's other people, those guys on the other side of the field, they get paid, as you know, Don Trell says, they drive nice cars too. So they're not going to lay down for you. So, I mean, we're getting there. I just feel like what Karros said, hey, maybe the Dodgers, that maybe they do have a chance. I mean, I just think it's wide open. I think the American League is completely wide open. The Astros don't look that dominant. I don't think there's any team.
They barely made it.
Yeah, I think it's completely wide open. And the fact that there's all this Phillies love, that means they're telling me, hey, maybe the Phillies could beat the Braves. And if the Phillies beat the Braves, why couldn't the Dodgers beat the Phillies? I mean, I like the fact that it's wide open. So I'm eagerly awaiting that this goes ahead and get started. As we wrap things up, any last thoughts from either one of you?
I do like that I was very disciplined in not bringing up Eric Karros' hair and then not asking about his products. Or I also wanted to ask him about scary movies, like it's spooky season. So I'm very proud of myself for just sticking to baseball.
I saw you were watching The Shining, by the way, the other day. But he says that I love that movie. So, all right, let's end it on this. Okay, what is your favorite horror spooky movie or whatever, since it is the beginning of October?
It's like favorite children. But okay, so my favorite children for my first marriage, we'll call it that. Okay, so my favorite scary movies for my first marriage are The Shining. I like Living Dead movies. I love zombie movies. I remember seeing The Exorcist when I was a little girl because my mom forbid me to see it. So that's still a classic.
Have you seen The Exorcist in the theater?
Yes. Yes. When they bring it back for.
Let me tell you, it is much different in a movie theater than it is watching it at home.
But I like to turn off the lights and everything. And I'm trying to figure out what a modern scary movie. Oh, I mean, well, no, they're not scary, but I'm a fan of like the Scream franchise, and just because they're clever, you know, and it's beautiful people. What are your favorite movies? Are there any modern ones? Because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I wanted to ask Eric about, definitely The Shining is one of my favorite.
I think The Shining is my favorite. I will say this to all our listeners, our viewers. If you ever get the opportunity to watch The Exorcist in a movie theater, go watch it in a movie theater. Because what makes The Exorcist scary to me is the sound design of that movie. And that you get that effect in a movie theater. Because I saw it in a movie theater and it scared the shit out of me in the movie theater. And it did not have that same effect for me when I was watching it at home. And I'll say this, one of my favorite movies of all time, and I've seen it so many times, is Jaws. And I know that I know Jaws backwards and forwards. I saw Jaws in the movie theater, and there's the scene when Richard Dreyfuss gets lowered into the water and he's in the shark cage in the movie theater, scared the shit out of me. And I knew it was coming. I knew what was coming, and I still got scared.
But you were still,
So look, if you go back to the movies, man, the movies are fantastic. See stuff in the movie theater. But yeah, for me, the Shining is definitely, I guess these modern horror movies, I'm more of a suspense thriller kind of guy. The psychological ones are the ones that really mess with me. I don't like this new genre of torture porn. Is what I call it, where it's just so gory, where you're seeing people just getting cut and like those Saw movies. I can't watch that stuff. That stuff is like, so I like more psychological. Babyface, what is your favorite spooky movie?
Besides, we mentioned this in the text, October Dodger baseball, right? That spooky movie.
That's the scariest one, is the Dodgers in October.
That's the scariest October baseball Dodgers.
I've never really been like a horror movie guy, I guess. I grew up with La Llorona, so that kind of scared me from childhood, right?
So Life is your scary movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch.
Like
I watched
CNN.
the Nightmare on the Nightmare on Elm
Fox
Street
News,
stuff. I saw that stuff, but I guess maybe it's just those classics. I never come some of the, like Alicia said, like, really nothing. It's been a long time, I guess, when there's been a lot of like stuff that's coming out like that.
What about Blair Witch Project? Remember the Blair
I saw
Witch
that
Project?
one.
Did that get you guys in the theater?
I saw it in the theater. It got me sick. It got me sick in the theater.
You know what got me in that movie was the very last scene. The very last scene of that movie scared the shit out of me. As I was walking back to my car in the parking lot, I kept looking over my shoulder. That scene, that whole up until that point, I was just like, what the hell is it? That movie, I was like, this is supposed to be scary. But that last shot, and I was just like, what the fuck? And then the movie ends, and now I got to walk to my car. I will say this. There are some other movies that have creeped me out that aren't necessarily scary. If anyone has seen the remake of Suspiria was this 1960s Italian horror movie directed by Dario Argento, but there was recently a remake of it, and that it was creepy. It was just creepy, and that was another. I need to run to my car when I was leaving the movie theater because I just kept looking over ahead of, my head was on a swivel because I don't know, for some reason, walking out of that movie, I just had a vibe that something or someone was going to get me. So yeah, those I feel are the successful horror movies, are the ones that stick with you and are creepy. So I guess spooky.
That's a good call, Suspiria. Yeah, now you're gonna make me watch that one next. The Blair Witch is very effective for me because I'm a hiker, and when I hike alone, I kid you not, if it starts getting dark, it makes my butt hustle faster. If I'm like, I don't want no Blair Witch Project, none of that bullshit. Like, even though I know it's a movie, it's still so when you're alone in the forest. I respect the forest. What about
Alicia? When you're hiking, do you hear?
No. Oh, see, I'm a huge Michael Myers fan. I love that franchise. I can't believe I didn't mention that. And not necessarily because of the scariness, but I love the backstory. I love the history. I love the formula. Like, I grew up on that franchise. So all of that. Halloween, Friday the 13th. Love, love, love. There is a new Exorcist that's coming out in the theater, and it's 2 young girls get possessed. So I might go check that out.
They're bringing back Ellen Burstyn in that movie.
Yes,
Ellen Burstyn was in the original Exorcist.
I love it. I love it. You did trigger me. I'm going to leave you with this when you brought up Jaws.
Yeah.
Because I very much love that movie and respect that movie. But when I was a little girl, I had silver cap teeth, and my older cousins called me Jaws. That was my nickname, and it.
But that's a reference to the James Bond character, not the actual shark.
It is a reference to but still, if anything Jaws, I'm like triggered. So
now
you're gonna drive me to day drink. I'm just kidding. All right.
I love Jaws, and I forget that in certain areas Jaws is considered a horror movie because it's technically a slasher film. But I still go with
very music. The sound effects created the spookiness. So in homage to what you mentioned earlier, sound is so important,
Absolutely. So yeah, that's great. I love that you brought this up. So in the tradition of the playoff starting, our favorite horror movies. There you go. Because as Babyface said, his favorite horror movie is the Dodgers in October. So that's going to be great. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Bleed Lows podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast and to our YouTube channel. We are still giving away the Mariachi Joe bobblehead. So make sure you tell your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are not going to give it away until we hit 1,000 subscribers. So share, tell everyone, go click on the Bleed Lows podcast YouTube channel, subscribe to it. And then once we hit 1,000, we are going to be raffling that off. Yo ha sido su servidor, Juan Ramírez, de parte de mis colegas, la princesa de Picolandia, Alicia del Valle, and Babyface. Nos vemos para la próxima. This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast has been brought to you by betonline.ag. where the game starts.